Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And we have to wake up, people, and notice that some of our major cities are just dying a slow fiscal, financial, and public safety death. We have several tentacles that are just tearing at the moral and ethical fabric of our American society. Mental health, undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues, homelessness, the opioid crisis, fatherless homes, inept inner city public schools, gun violence, carjackings. There's a lot going on. And of course, we have several of our cities that have become sanctuary cities, and there's a huge migrant influx. There are numbers that are predicting that 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants have entered our country. So what is really going on? But we are having some real issues, and we need to pay attention to the temperament of three places in particular, which are going to be a telltale sign of where our country is headed. Chicago is being decimated. New York City is being decimated, and the entire state of California. Now, what do three of these cities and states have in common? Well, Chicago has the Safety Act, which is a liberal law where you can be charged with a minor infraction and then get out under your own recognizance. New York City has bail reform, same thing. You can get out under your own recognizance. LA County has what's called a cashless bail system, and people throughout that entire city and the state can steal up to $950 a day with no consequences. And it is destroying our cities. And you're going to see this swipe across our whole country if we don't put a halt to it. This migrant issue is very big and large, and many of these cities are already suffering, and now you are toppling it with these sanctuary cities and this huge migrant issue. And there has been an uptick in violence in Chicago, in New York, in the whole state of California. Oakland, California, San Francisco in particular are being decimated each and every day. But let's talk about this in Chicago. They are having a huge budget crisis. And just as you think, well, I don't live in Chicago, I'm going to turn this off. This is a very clear example of, just because it's happening in Chicago, the third largest city in America, it could happen anywhere, and it could happen in your city. So let's go. Mayor Brandon Johnson is having a lot of issues. Chicago halts hiring as deficit tops $1 billion through 2025. Chicago is freezing hiring and curbing other expenses to help close more than $1 billion in budget shortfalls through next year for the nation's third largest city. Effective Monday, Chicago is limiting non-essential travel and overtime expenses outside of public safety spending, Budget Director Annette Guzman said in an email statement. Chicago is staring down an estimated $222.9 million deficit this year alone. They've spent $150 million on this whole migrant issue alone. And they're saying another $982.4 million deficit is projected next year. $980 million. These measures, while necessary, reflect our commitment to responsible fiscal management during a time of financial uncertainty, Guzman said in the statement. City officials, including the budget and finance teams, are working diligently to navigate these financial challenges and ensure the continued delivery of essential services to our residents. Now remember, the previous mayor, Lori Lightfoot, had the same issues, and that's why they got her out of office. And now with Brandon Johnson, the budget deficit is even worse. Brandon Johnson, who is crafting his second spending plan, is trying to make good on his progressive social and economic campaign promises while grappling with the city's challenging finances. He will outline his budget, including how he plans to close the 2025 gap in the next month or two. The Chicago City Council then will vote on the proposal by the end of 2024. Mayor Johnson is confronting similar issues as his predecessor. Ex-Mayor Lori Lightfoot implemented a hiring freeze when she addressed back-to-back shortfalls fueled by jumps in the city's mandated pension payments earlier in her term. And as I said, that's one of the main reasons they got rid of Lori Lightfoot. So Johnson's is even worse. Johnson's administration is also looking for revenue. The budget gaps he faces come amid a drop in the so-called personal property replacement taxes from the state, and because the city school district isn't spending $175 million to pay a portion of pension contributions for its non-teaching staff that participate in the city's municipal employee retirement fund. So they're not even paying them. Over $175 million, according to Guzman's statement. That rising personnel, pension, and contractual costs alongside ongoing revenue challenges are driving the shortfall next year. The measures the city announced on Monday are a starting point, said Joe Ferguson, president of the Civic Federation, a government watchdog. While the steps send the right message in response to the deficits, questions about how city departments will work with labor groups to deliver critical services with potentially less resources are still unanswered. He said, I am heartened by the fact that there is at least a recognition of the magnitude of this problem, Ferguson said. What a complete debacle and mess is taking place in the heartland of America, Chicago. Chicago is the heartbeat of our country. New York City is right there along with it. And remember, two of your biggest financial institutions are right in Chicago and New York. And what are they? Chicago has a Chicago Board of Trade. And of course, New York City has the New York Stock Exchange and other several financial services or stock exchanges, money transfer, large banking. Chicago and New York are always at the very top. But what in the world is going on? You have these liberal laws that have taken place. As I said, the state of Illinois has the Safety Act. With this, you can get out of jail under your own recognizance for a minor crime. What do you define as minor? New York has this bail reform system. In both of these cities, and including in California, you have had people that have committed theft, stealing, and have been arrested over 100 times in 1 year and have gotten out each and every time, if not even the same day or within hours of being arrested. There is no accountability there. And these cities are already huge. We're talking New York, we're talking Chicago, we're talking Los Angeles. And there's always been tons of issues and problems when you have that many people in one city. And then for these cities, especially New York and Chicago, to decide to be sanctuary cities when the people there are already suffering with low wages, have uh, been on the heels or the precipice of the social services systems, whether it's food stamps, Section 8 vouchers. There are many people that are utilizing the system to survive. And then you topple this with this migrant issue. You're hearing rumblings in Denver, Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia. But to see that Chicago, there is tons of opioid issues, there is tons of human trafficking, drug trafficking, um, uh, assaults, carjackings. And now you have a scenario where the city of Chicago, not the state, the city will have a $1 billion deficit by next year. What in the world is going on? And this is a telltale sign where I tell my viewers all the time, don't just pay attention to your national politics. Make sure you know what's going on with your city and your state. And I think that Mayor Brandon Johnson, uh, for one, under his first term, he doesn't have a prior background in politics per se. I don't think he should have allowed Chicago to become a sanctuary city. He needed to take his first term and learn the infrastructure of politics, especially in a city as large as Chicago. I think Brandon Johnson has bitten off more than he can chew. You can tell that what's going on in New York City with Eric Adams and Governor Holcomb. They welcomed all of this sanctuary city issues, and look at what that has turned out to be. Eric Adams now has been indicted, and his whole mayoral staff is falling and crumbling by the second in today's time. We have to pay attention to who we are electing, the power of the pen, to represent our cities and our states, not just our country. You look at what Governor Gavin Newsom has allowed to take place in the state of California. California, the entire state is being decimated. You have Skid Row. They claim there's 50,000 homeless people in LA on Skid Row. Oakland and San Francisco are being destroyed, where In-N-Out Burger, Walgreens, banks are leaving the cities at the speed of light. And you also have now where the mayor of Oakland, the feds came in to seize items out of her home, and she could possibly be indicted. Brandon Johnson better make sure that he's dotting all his I's and crossing all his T's, because a $1 billion deficit and the way that the citizens of Chicago are angered by this entire migrant issue. And of course, there are allegations that the cities and the state, and of course our government, is doing everything they can to give these illegal migrants vouchers and helping them with credit cards and housing, way before the people that have been living in these cities and these states in America for generations after generations. We're on a boiling point. Chicago is on the precipice of blowing up, and civil unrest taking place if they don't get this thing under control. $1 billion of a deficit by next year. $1 billion. That's just the city of Chicago and not the state of Illinois. There is going to be a heck of a lot of rumbling and negative energy that's taking place in Chicago with this whole political mayoral office and the decisions that Brandon Johnson and his office is making. Chicago may actually go bankrupt. And don't forget, while this is taking place in the heartbeat of America, and look at what's going on in New York and California, our U.S. government is sending billions of dollars over to the Ukraine and Russia war, billions of dollars in the Gaza Strip war. We have a tendency, America, to want to take care and put our nose into things that are taking place outside of our borders, while many of our major cities are falling apart day by day. Uh, those utilizations of those funds should be used for our cities, our major cities, and if there is a clear example, if our major cities like Chicago are falling apart fiscally and financially, what does that say for smaller cities? And many of our smaller cities that have also said that they would welcome becoming a sanctuary city, you need to think twice. Chicago's in a big mess and debacle and a financial strain and distress. $1 billion is a lot of money. People are upset and they're crying out as we speak. Tell me what you think about this issue in Chicago, where they're saying they're doing a hiring freeze and that the deficit will top $1 billion through 2025. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.